right. We're doing the end of season Mailbag Pod. I'm with Tom. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right, Tom. I'm very nasally, so apologies to everyone.
Hay fever or a cocaine habit? Which one?
Better both. One makes
dabble.
the other one worse. I don't know which way around it is, but yeah, I've not decided yet. But I'm always nasally, and I apologise wholeheartedly to not just you, but every single person listening.
I have to listen to you. Yeah, they've all turned off.
I'm going to try not to sniff as well. Like,
oh yeah,
for an hour. Like you really don't want to hear that. Just me going throughout the whole time.
Yes,
that's as much as I'm going to give you. I'm sorry.
There were a couple of pods, I won't name them, that of people. One a transfer podcast, one a sort of United related podcast, where they had sniffers on frequent, and it's just like you're talking good, yeah, like interesting stuff, interesting like discussion, but you're sniffing every 5 seconds, really distracting. Can't do it.
So. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what pods you're talking about, but like I'm sure there's definitely a few cocaine lads hanging around those types of shows.
Just before we came on, we were discussing my broccoli salad. So yeah, my body is a temple, pure and healthy. I am. Yeah. And unlike our listeners, looking at some of these questions, things eating at them.
Yeah, they're on something stronger than cocaine, aren't they? Some of them, I think.
Or some of them very high on hope. Yeah, okay. So the plan for this one is we're just going to go through a list of questions, sort of semi-structured into themes, but usual.
These are the best shows. I love these shows.
Yeah, it's just going to be free form. We'll go through them and see where we go.
Yeah.
Since there's no actual football to talk about until the Euros kicks off in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, England are playing right as we speak, though. But...
I saw the team and had zero interest.
Yes.
I don't really see the point. They're playing Bosnia and then someone else. Gibraltar?
Iceland, I think.
Iceland, that's it. Iceland.
Scotland played Gibraltar earlier. Yeah. That is ridiculously stupid, in my opinion. But yeah.
It's like, what are you achieving with that? And given that England are playing Bosnia with basically a second-string side there, so none of the United City players are there, and obviously Bellingham's not there, and so on. So, I'm trying, plays in odd positions. What are you trying to achieve? Anyway, we'll see if Jared Bowen on the left wing is better choice than Marcus Rashford.
Well, it's 0-0 after 43 minutes, so
great.
Maybe
good.
Not.
Good. Shame I missed that one. And not. We'll go through a few of them. I've tried to structure it a little bit. We'll see. Kyle K Hayes 888 on Twitter says, even though this is one of our worst seasons in memory, there were a lot of moments of joy. Do you think this will be remembered fondly? What? I read this one. I was like, the moment of joy that I remember is the FA Cup final and beating Liverpool. Apart from that, no moments of joy. So
yeah, I guess the whole FA Cup run, like the Liverpool game was an incredible game, and like I've heard people's stories who were at the FA Cup final. They say one person, Darren Richmond, friend of the show, he said it was the best United game he's been to since the 2008 Champions League
final. Wow.
So I think probably because of the fact that we absolutely had no chance of winning that final and won it made it a lot better that day. Like it did seem like an incredible day.
Yeah.
And maybe because of how shit everything was, like those moments did feel a little bit better, but I don't know. I don't know if
that's that game. I don't think we'll remember the season though. I mean, it's a forgettable season. The cup final,
especially if Ten Hag ends up going or goes next season after having a really shit season, and I think it'll be even more forgettable.
Yeah. Related, Jamie Pommy 64 on Twitter says, was the recent FA Cup final the best final since 1990, considering opposition, MUFC being underdogs, and since 1990, all FA Cup final wins have been comfortable and losses against top three sides. Yeah, well, the actual 1990 FA Cup final, the final was great. The replay was shit. That was a terrible game. And United won from a goal from Lee Martin. I think that was his only goal for the club, which is pretty random.
Not bad way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. That final will be remembered by United fans for a long time because we beat City and we were underdogs and all of that. So, yeah, undoubtedly true. All right. Osama says, how do we get Erik to continue with the riz he showed after the FA Cup final? Love saying that, assuming he stays next season. I don't know, because I think a lot of it's like embattled Ten Hag, who started getting defensive. And that was where I don't know that it's, I don't think it's actually charisma. I think he just gets a bit tetchy when he's feeling under pressure. And out came this more bullish Ten Hag, which I agree was much better than the sort of prosaic one that doesn't say much and obviously has no charisma at all. But yeah, I mean, fans are clearly going to like that more. I just don't think it's his natural state of being.
Yeah, it is bullish, isn't it? It's just kind of on the front foot rather than like, squaring up and putting one down at your feet. It was, but that doesn't strike as charisma to me either. Like, it's difficult, obviously, to be charismatic in a foreign tongue. So he's obviously got that against him, but it's kind of the way of like Dutch speakers. They're very much like to the point and hard nosed, and he is that in, and he's rural Dutch as well. Like he's not, and I feel like that doesn't mean you can't be charismatic by anything like that, but he is just very much an analytics man to me. Like he doesn't.
I don't think
we don't play football. We don't play football like an analytics guy, but he strikes me as, like you said on one pod, like an accountant. Like he's that type of bloke, and I don't. Yeah, for me, it's not charisma. It's just front foot.
Yeah, he's not going to change. He is what he is, and we accept it or we don't accept it. Is my view. And
however old he is as well, like 50 odd. Like you don't change
personality
personality at that age.
No, I don't think it's a good fit personally, but yeah, I don't know. I feel I was on with Paul the other day for the season wrap up, and I said I feel a bit ambivalent about him, and I do kind of, because he doesn't elicit strong emotions because there's nothing about him to really hate or like.
No, you just want to see him treated well. I think the reason why a lot of people feel the same way as you, but I think a lot of people kind of jump to his defence in FA Cup final week and after FA Cup final was just the way he's treated. And you don't want to see someone treated like that who doesn't deserve to be treated like that. And I think that's why he got so much vociferous support, because it was like almost like Trumpian in the way that he kind of spun it to his advantage. Like, you media lot are out to get me, and like that elicits a lot of strong opinion in the crowd, because it's like everyone's against United type of thing, and we need to back our man here. And obviously winning the thing adds fuel to that argument as well. But like, I think without that, like, do people really have that strong opinion about him? I'm not sure.
No, and I think it disappeared quite quickly if he stays, if there's a few early season defeats. All right. Talking of which, Ollie Espinas says, if he stays, how does Erik turn this around next season? Yeah. This is the existential risk that I'm sure that all the Ineos crew are thinking about right now. You know, you can't, I think the halfway house of, well, let's just give him the next season is the worst of all worlds, personally, because he's into his last year of his contract. He'll be a lame duck. And as soon as things, inevitably, a defeat or two is a crisis at United, even if you're generally doing well. And he'll be well outside of the honeymoon period that he had in his first season. And immediately pressure would be on him, like immediate, like lose first game of the season, immediate pressure. And then what? You're going to fire someone after you spend a bunch of money in the summer. So it's back him or sack him for me, which is hand him a new 3-year contract right now, which I can't make any strong case for personally. I don't think there is much of a strong case other than we liked this guy a few years ago. We think he's a decent coach. He'd probably get another good job. We might as well support him. We don't like the other alternatives. It's kind of that, isn't it? So.
Yeah, but you say we there, but like the people, the we no longer exists. Like they're not at the club anymore. So the thing is that Ineos we keep being told they're trying to do is build an identity. They need to build what they want. They're trying to put that into place, what they want United to become.
Yeah.
And therefore, that means that if they keep him, you're saying to Ten Hag, like Ten Hag is going to fit around what we want.
Yeah.
Rather than we bring in someone to do something that we want, which is the thing that I think could work. But then that's just you're just square pegging in round hole here. Like I think
exactly.
I think personally that Ineos should just go with their own man. Personally, and that's what it's ruthless, but I think it's sensible.
Yeah, and it's their own man. If Erik fits that mold, then that's And I think we that is in the community of people around United, often forget that this is not. It's like we're in a new world where I don't think they're picking the next manager based on like who's the big name or let's go out and find the best manager we can get. They have a vision or they're trying to build a vision with Barada, Wilcox, Ashworth. And to a certain extent, the consultants in Jean-Claude Blanc and Brailsford and Ratcliffe. That identity comes from picking a club identity and then fitting the manager into it rather than the other way around. Related, Andy McCoy says, should we be worried about the lack of communication or action from Ineos since the season ended? And so my feeling on this one, because the full-time devil, Stretford Paddock guys did a video this morning saying it's becoming a farce. And I know that's a good hook for YouTube, and they're not really, they're not quite like that, those guys, mostly sensible heads on shoulders there. But I think I always go back to the thing Ratcliffe said in every single interview he's done, which is we'll walk to the right decision, not run to the wrong one. Every single time. And he couldn't be clearer. And it strikes me, like him or loathe him, and there's plenty of reasons for the latter with Ratcliffe, he's really clear. I think he's a really clear communicator. We should probably take that at face value. They're gonna take their time and they're gonna try and make the right decision.
Yeah, for me, there is no rush. We've got Euros that a lot of our players will be at, or a Copa America. Therefore, waiting 3 or 4 weeks to come to the right decision rather than rushing it within the next week. It doesn't matter. All the players are on holiday, and if they are going to come up with a long-term solution of what they want the club to be like, that doesn't happen overnight, and we don't want that to happen overnight. We've had enough short-term thinking over the past fucking 14 years. We need some long-term thinking.
Yes, I know, and it's funny. Everyone's come to that same conclusion that we need a proper structure in place at the club. We need, a better way of making better decisions, or a way of making better decisions that isn't Ed Woodward getting some shiny thing from whatever agent is, flavor of du jour. But at the same time, everyone's like, give us the players now. Make the decision now. Right, okay, talking about long-term decision, Matt Ablett, friend of the show, says, was the successful emergence of several youth team players into the first team last season simply a consequence of a poor senior squad, or can Ten Hag take some credit for nurturing young talent? And I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? Without sitting on the fence there, bit of both thing. Football cliches love that, don't they? But he trusted Garnacho and Kobe Mainu when he was fit with huge amounts of minutes. I mean, he just trusted them. And so I think you can get a lot of credit for that, because I'm not sure, as good as those two players are, every other manager would do that. They would, rather than take the risk of inconsistent performances or inconsistent output, they'd rather go with something that they know, even if the ceiling is lower, right? So you can take that credit, but also there's an absolute bunch of wasters in the United team, and so who didn't deserve their positions. So, of course, these talented kids should get a go.
Yeah, and also like that they are exceptionally good. And you look at someone like you can maybe turn that argument on its head and go, look at Amad Diallo. Like, why wasn't he playing more? Like every time we saw him, he was really good, uh, so much better than Anthony. And you can kind of go like, well, it works in some respects, but you have to play Garnacho and Kobe Menu because they're so fucking good.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly some credit to him. I don't want to take all the credit away. Would Mourinho have done the same with Kobe Menu? Maybe not. Um, and yeah, all credit to spotting how good he was in pre-season and therefore bringing him straight into the team, all that kind of good stuff. But then someone like Diallo, who was a bit 50-50, he didn't give him as much. I didn't give him as many minutes, and then someone like Kambawala, who, yeah, maybe is not quite as good as the other two, and maybe his ceiling isn't as high, but like Kambawala was playing behind Casemiro, and we're playing Casemiro at the back, so like. Did we really want to see that? I didn't think so. I'd rather see Campbell White, especially in meaningless Premier League games and stuff. And I know he was injured towards the end of the season and stuff, but yeah, I feel like it's worked with two boy wonders, but not with everyone.
Yes, and it might be the case that these two are just too good to have left out, and it wasn't necessarily a trust in youth. It was just they were the best options because, Kambawala didn't get a run, as you say. Harry Amos was on the bench a lot, didn't play at all, and we insisted on playing with Wan-Bissaka. So
someone like Alvaro Fernandes, who he shipped out when we didn't have any left backs.
Shipped out and sold him, So a mixed bag there. All right, last on the kind of manager thing, Quatched says, who of McKenna and Carrick is likely to succeed as a United manager? Yeah, the funny thing is, although Michael Carrick had three games as United manager, was it 3 or 4? I forget now. In that sort of interim, maybe it was only 2 interim period. It's hard to really get a hold on what kind of coach he is, and Borough did really well at the beginning of last season, then really strongly tailed off. But they are where they are because that's their natural home, isn't it? Whereas McKenna has massively overachieved with from League One, and there's still some of those players with some League One players, some Championship players, and some loanees. He's just massively overachieved. But he plays this kind of very dynamic style of football with really high fullbacks and a kind of risky style of football, which feels like quite a natural fit for United. Although clearly they were not willing to sprint to that decision, and probably rightly so, right? I mean, it would have been a big leap from Ipswich to United.
Yeah, I think you always need to be a bit cautious over teams and managers who have momentum behind them. Because look at Rob Edwards, for example. Like Rob Edwards did the same thing at Luton. He took them from League One to the Premier League, and fine manager. He did a fine job with a team with a lesser budget than Ipswich. Then I think he kind of like referred back to to McKenna. He's never managed while a team's been bad. And a bit like when Carrick first was at Middlesbrough, everything was going right for him and he had momentum behind him. And if you can keep that belief going for a certain amount of time, that's all well and good. But it's when that belief kind of dissipates and breaks, it's like, how do you deal with it then? And that's the thing that you can't judge a manager after 2 years of that. Like, it's super impressive what he's done, but to give him a big job off the back of that is I think, too much. And I think that's what's kind of mad that what Leicester of Chelsea have done with Maresca. Like,
that is the most bonkers managerial appointment ever.
That is crazy because he's not done as good a job as McKenna and almost failed to get Leicester promoted. Like, they almost fucked it.
And this
is
Leicester
squad.
With parachute payments and
crazy
Premier League
squad.
They paid 10 million for him and his team and given him a 6-year contract, and it feels like there's a good chance they regret that. So it'll be interesting with McKenna. He's got a brand new contract. He's on a massive wage. Ipswich are really push the boat out. He's going to be the best paid person at that team, better than all the players for sure. and they're going to find it hard. Like necessarily, they're going to find it hard next season. It'll be a real test of how good a manager he is. Can he play that same brand of fairly high line, high risk football in a team that's not going to be good enough for the division? You know, and it's
And we saw Company struggle with that as well. Like it's kind of very much. I very much expect a similar thing to happen, but Company got the buying job off that. So
yeah, bonkers, mad. One season with a relegated team, and you get failing upwards. Even Xabi Alonso, right? Who's had 2 seasons as a coach and done fantastically well, incredible team, but in that, you know, and obviously did the double in Germany, but in that Europa League final, I mean, he got outthought, right? And he wasn't able to change it around. And the pattern of that first half where they were just man for man pressed all over the pitch, he wasn't able to go, okay, here's the solution to that, because the same thing happened in the second half as well.
And I think, again, all credit to Xabi Alonso, but it's the power of belief. Like, and that's what carried Leverkusen through so much of that season. It's what, I mean, in some respects, it's what carries Real Madrid to the Champions League season after season. It's what carried United in some respects, like in some of their amazing seasons. It's that, and that isn't to be underestimated at all, because that's great man management. It's great team cohesion, especially with Fergie. In his respect, he was able to do it year after year after year, and Ancelotti's been able to do that at Real Madrid and stuff. But it's when things start to go badly, if you still be able to keep that power of belief, because you saw Leverkusen this year, like how many late goals they score. They just didn't believe that they could lose a game, and that is that mentality, which is enormous, which feeds into. You can have all the tactics in the world. I feel like I'm talking like Sam Allardyce now, but like mentality is so important, and that will guide so many teams to victories. And I feel like, I say, that's what literally wins Real Madrid Champions League.
Well, Sam Allardyce and also Ferguson would say the same thing. Like, tactics are important, but and he can talk tactics if he wants, as we know. All right, going to move on to some questions around players, and I'll try and clump a few of these together. So, THTBYCC says, Bruno finished the season incredibly, but his form until the end of Feb had been patchy by his own standards. Is there any argument for a new manager identifying a new captain and letting Bruno focus on his own game? And Mick says, why are there some in the fan base that want Bruno out? I don't get it. Bruno is one of those weirdly polarizing players. I don't understand. I mean, I guess I'm with Mick here. His numbers for a bad season were fantastic. You know, so in a bad team for a bad season, off the charts. And I just don't think he would be a different player if he had the captain's armband or not. He's going to be Bruno. He's going to be intense. He's going to be running everywhere. He's going to be moaning. You know,
I kind of understand some of the doubts, but I don't think you can have those. I don't think they've got any credence until he's played in a team which is really fucking good. Like, he's played in a team which is shit, and he's the best player, and he drags us through game after game, season after season since he's been at the club. He isn't the problem here. Like, there's a lot of bigger problems than him. And if we end up being fucking really good next season, and then Bruno, I don't know, maybe gives the ball away too much, or he's too whingy, or whatever, and then he starts to become a problem, then I can understand the criticism. But I think right now, like, any of that kind of fear is more like hypothetical. Like, we've not seen it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. Like, there's clearly his agent's out and about, like, shopping him around, and I don't think that means he wants to go. He's been quite clear he wants to stay. But it might well be they're thinking, like, he's 29. If the project is 3 years with Ineos, then he's going to be 32. That might be it. That might be him done as an opportunity. So I could kind of understand if he thought, well, there's better opportunities to win the biggest trophies elsewhere. Maybe this is his last chance, because if he signs a new contract, that's it, right? Related, Andre Arshia, this for you, Tom, right? If the Saudis come in with 120 million for Bruno, would you take it?
Fuck. No. I don't,
No?
120.
Wow. Not enough.
Maybe.
I'd be tempted.
Maybe these days. I was thinking like previous, like under Glazers, we just waste that money. But I suppose
we would. Yeah.
With the proper recruitment team, that maybe that would be.
If you told me the 120 million, half of it would go on a replacement. So, like, let's just say, for the sake of arguments, Florian Wirtz, right?
Yeah.
You know, younger, number 10, and say it was half. And then half could go elsewhere on a striker. I might be tempted.
You are convincing me with that, to be fair.
And I'm saying this as a Bruno stan, unapologetic Bruno stan.
Yeah.
I might be tempted, but it's really if we could spend the money sensibly and get like post PSR FFP rates, not not blowing 95 million of it on Anthony Mark II. So
yeah, that's completely agree.
Alex Worrell says, given the dearth of striking options and our finances, do you see us rolling into next season with Rasmus, hoping Wheatley is decent and then buy another? Or could we get a promising youngster plus more experienced option without running it up against FFP? A lot of questions rolled into one there, but all about the strikers. Do you see enough in Wheatley to say, hey, he could be a backup?
No, not yet. Not yet for me. He's obviously really good, but like, I feel like his frame and he's not quick. He's quick, but I don't know if he's like lightning, which you would need to be, I think, with a frame like that. He has like, and I think because like the Premier League is so physical that you would have to have one of those things. A bit like Rashford, when Rashford came through, he was absolutely lightning and he wasn't that strong. So he could kind of get away with not being in the physical contact. If you aren't that quick, you're going to have to be involved in the physical contact as a striker. Therefore, he's just going to get knocked over the ball too much. I think he needs a loan. Like, no matter how good you are technically as a number 9, if you're not physical, look at Højlund. Like, Højlund is an absolute beast. Like, and you put Rashford up front in comparison, and like Rashford gets knocked over the ball so easily. Like, playing back to goal, like you have to have that physicality, I think, as a number 9, unless you have like searing pace. And I think we do really, really need a striker to sign. Like there's like, and I think someone to compete with Højlund, I think that is what is needed. I mean, I was listening to like the Stick to Football podcast. I think it was Andy Cole was on there, just talking about like who the strikers that he played with. Also, obviously, we had the treble season where we had 4 ridiculously good strikers, and we did play 2 up top a lot of time. But towards the end of his time there, we were playing 1 up top, and he said it was like Van Nistelrooy and Andy Cole, and like Solskjaer was still there and stuff. It's like, and even not even that long ago, when we under Van Gaal, we had Falcao, Van Persie, Rooney. I think one more. I don't think wasn't there, but we need to go back to the days where we have more than one striker. Jesus.
It is bonkers going into a season with 1 striker. Yeah. I mean, obviously, a lot of talk about Benjamin Sesko at the moment. Seems like Arsenal may be interested, and his release fee is reasonable up till the end of June. So everyone may be interested in that. And I don't know if he's the man or not. He scored some blinding goals. But I can't say I watch him every week or anything like that. But yeah, clearly needs to be another, whether it's another young striker as a competition or an older one. Given United's budget, it would be a young striker on a reasonable fee or an older one on a freebie or something like that, or something reasonable. But whatever, definitely one more. I have a lot of faith in Rasmus. I think he's got the raw materials. I mean, Andy Cole said on that one, he gets too involved in the physical contests and should be looking at space a bit more. And I do think when he gets the ball in front of him, he's so dangerous and he doesn't spend enough time with the ball in front of him. Yeah. A lot of that is to do with the tactical system, which gets the ball into the wide players to cut in and shoot. And Rasmus's role partly was to occupy the central defenders to create space for others. And that's just been Ten Hag's tactical approach, which I think is a waste of Rasmus's qualities,
Yeah.
personally. Yeah. Okay. Michael Lapidid says, should United just buy out Casemiro, like what Arsenal did with some of their highest earners when there was no market? If there is no market for him, United performed much better when he was dropped. It's tempting because I don't think the Saudis will actually pump. Like if you actually look at this, because there's been a lot of talk today of Casemiro to Saudi, right?
Caught offside. Did you
But
see that rumor that they're always shit, but like they said that like they're trying to buy him for 80 million or something.
I don't buy it. I don't think there's a market because I think actually what PIF did, because they own 4 and then 4 PIF alone aligned companies own 4 others, and there's one more coming up, right? So there's going to be 9 Saudi state owned of the 12 in the league or whatever it is. It's not often presented like that, which is kind of interesting.
It's actually really funny because Hungarian football is like that. We have 11 of the 12 teams are owned by Orban or Orban's allies, which is just ridiculous.
Well, so is all the media and the courts
90%
and
of the
all
media,
of that as well. So what they paid a few fees, but not loads and loads of massive fees. They pay massive wages. And so what they paid a pretty large fee for Ruben Neves. Who else did they pay large fees for?
I feel like the Chelsea lads, did they pay a bit for the Chelsea, like Edouard Mendy? Maybe like 20 odd for him, Kante?
Maybe, yeah, not much though on those. Yeah. Neymar was a freebie, or did they pay money for him? I can't remember now.
I can't remember either. I feel like they might have paid like 50.
And Cristiano Ronaldo is a freebie. So yeah, I don't know. It's obvious that they're going to do that. Pay a huge fee. I think that might be United. And of course, like the previous regime were out there trying to flog players. But even if it's getting him his wages off the books, that's quite valuable. If we don't think he's like, there's no point in him. If we don't think he's going to suddenly make a physical comeback, then he's not a starter for United. You know, unless we play an other DM alongside him, which means it's one of Kobbie Mainoo or Bruno Fernandes, right? It doesn't make any sense either. So, I don't understand the strategy that has Casemiro in the side week in week. And in that case, just letting him go on a free, whether it's buying him out of the contract, I think that would be too much.
Yeah.
I think that would be like £40 million or something like that, or finding someone to take him on a freebie. Then that might.
I think the Saudis would take him on a freebie for sure. I think we'd even be able to get 5 or 10 million out of that. To be fair, but it just shows I think Amrabat playing in that defensive midfield position just shows how much that he was an average midfielder, like how much better we looked when he was there, which is a. Yeah, don't tell the Saudis that. Like, maybe we should be talking about how good he has been this season. But
I think it's also a little bit. That was a little bit to do with changing the system, though.
Yeah.
So Amrabat came in when they compressed the space against Arsenal, Newcastle, and City. They like shrunk it down a lot, and they were a bit more open against Brighton, where it looks more end to end, and he looked shit in that game. So.
But at least he doesn't run out and just slide on the floor and then they can just run past him like, I don't know, like an 8-year-old playing FIFA.
Or get booked doing that when you actually manage to catch someone. So that's it. Casemiro is too slow to actually get them most of the time, but when he does, yellow card, Merchant. Yeah. I say that very respectfully, Casemiro, if you're listening. I know you don't like that. It's just sadly, the physicality is gone, and the Premier League is no place for that at all. So, all right, a few questions came in about some older players. Simon says, if you could have any one retired player from United's history in their prime in the team right now, who would it be and why?
Oh,
I'll let you go first. I have an idea.
I was thinking like a Keane or a Robson. I feel like an absolute like midfield general who is also a ridiculous leader who would set the standards not just in the game but throughout training and every facet of the club. I feel that would be that kind of just win at all cost mentality, also with the absolute ridiculous footballing brain and ability. I feel like that would be just a game changer for United.
No, I fully agree. That's who I'd written down for that one. And if not that, leader, central defensive leader, like maybe a Yapstam or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, Rio is probably an even higher quality player. I don't know if it's that kind of leader, really. But
yeah, and I feel like
when we mention some of these old names and we think about, like, what have we missed these last 10 years? Think how good. If you go through the team of the last United team that won the title, and that was one that was like on its last legs, clearly, just like 10 of that team would walk into the current team, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and like and all 10 of them would be the best player in the team apart from Bruno, probably.
Yeah. Kakatar says, "Why did we sell Fred again?"
I feel like we said this at the time. Like, I feel like we said this at the time. Like, we lost. Someone
could have done with him this season.
I know Scott McTominay scored 10 goals, but like, he's not a dynamic man. And like, especially when Casemiro's like clearly lost his legs. Like, I loved Fred's dynamism. He had limitations, but he was a great squad player. And maybe, I think we said this at the time as well, maybe he was just leaving because he wanted to play first team football. He was never going to be guaranteed that at United. He was always going to be a bench boy. He's always going to be a squad player. And like I said this at the time, like, fair play if he just wanted to go to Fenerbahce and play week in, week out. And they had a really ridiculously good season and somehow didn't win the title. So, and apparently he was quality there. So like, fair enough, I think. But like, yeah, I think he was a loss.
Talking of Fenerbahce,
Mourinho.
Oh man, I mean, I've got to say, it's going to be car crash, isn't it? It's like, I don't want to get into too many cliches, but quite a volatile fan base. Incredible fans, incredible. I mean, all three of them actually: Besiktas, Galatasaray, and Fenerbahce. Incredible fans. The noise they make at Besiktas, like something else, isn't it? But I don't know. I feel like he could cause a riot. There's something about Mourinho who's going to rub them up the wrong way at some point.
I also think because they had such an incredible season, I think they got really far in the they got really far in the Conference League. They lost to Olympiacos, I think, in the semi or the quarters, and got 99 points. I feel like, I don't know, did they sack their manager for getting 99 points and losing the title? I don't know what happened there, but like, Mourinho's not harsh. It feels a little bit harsh. I feel like Mourinho walking in there is like,
feels combustible.
Absolutely.
It's going to be great. I'm going to be watching the Super League, no doubt. I will be tuning into that. Hate watching, maybe.
No, I thought he was saying some really interesting things on TNT the other day. Like, he was talking like, honestly, he was talking like he'd been through therapy, and it was like, I'm a huge guy now, man.
But remember when he did that? He did that when he first came in at United as well. Yeah, you know.
And
we were thinking he's the changed one, and then all the old habits came out.
On that documentary as well, the All or Nothing Spurs one. Like, with certain players, he was like really, really lovey-dovey. But yeah, it soon turns toxic. He's like a reform. He thinks he's reformed, and then all of a sudden, like, the cortisol kind of starts to course through his body, and then it's old little toxic.
The old instincts come out. Did you see the clip of him and Bellingham and Bellingham getting his mum to do it? Yeah, my mum's always fancied me.
That's funny. That is.
Oh dear, Jude Bellingham's mum had a good night that night. And the football was good as well. Yeah,
I saw Bellingham did his first Spanish interview today, which is, boy's a quick learner. Really.
After a year there, well, young people able to learn language. I did think it was funny actually, because I know enough Spanish to understand what he said, and he was still talking in cliches. Nice. This was unbelievable. We just work really hard. Yeah. It was great. I was like, football in whatever language, it's all the same. Quachet, did I read this one? No. What was Martial's best moment? Martial FC #.
Can I just say that his debut.
It was his
It
debut.
was,
That's his
yeah.
best moment.
It was. I mean, he did score.
I mean, there's the cup semi winner against
Everton,
Everton.
yeah.
That was a good moment.
Yeah.
But it's dancing through the Liverpool defence and scoring. That's his best moment.
Yeah, and there was like plenty of lovely moments. He looked like an absolute ice cold, ruthless finisher. So many occasions, but I do think it is just that first moment. It's what he's going to be remembered for forever. And also Martin Tyler's commentary on that goal is world class,
iconic, almost. Yeah. We haven't. I hope he finds a club, by the way, because he seems like a decent bloke. I mean, he decides when he wants to be fit, and he's plays fast and loose with all the women he's impregnated.
He could.
I think it's more than one. But,
he could easily end up at Fenerbahce. Like if you look at the Turkish league,
you think he's made for the Turkish league?
Every Premier League player is made for the Turkish league. If you look at that league, it's just literally full of like. You look at the top scorers, and about 80% of them have probably played in the Prem at some point. Like even like Oxlade-Chamberlain and Joe Worrell are at Besiktas. It's Nicholas Pepe, Trabzonspor, and like it's just everywhere.
Wilf Zaha, obviously, and Mario Icardi. Yeah. All right, Simon. _B_4 says, is everyone prepared for the end of the season pod to be hijacked by the manager announcement 5 minutes before recording? I think we're all right. They haven't announced it yet. I think. I haven't checked Twitter since we've been recording in the 41 minutes since we started. So
no notifications here.
It will inevitably come out as I'm editing at some point today.
I've got a message saying Southgate out. Does that mean they're losing?
You know what? I think England are fuck this. I think I'd like England to win once in my lifetime. Not that my priority is obviously United, and England is some way down the list of priorities. But in my lifetime, I'd like England to win a tournament. But my lifetime is getting shorter by the day.
That's true.
So,
that's the same.
Or what's left of it.
That's the same for all of us, to be fair.
Same for all of us. Well, you've got an extra 10, 15 years.
You never know. I think we're all just going to die in World War III, to be fair. So I feel that's what that's what I think.
That's a bit dark.
It is a little bit dark, but then I just think of like my pension. Like, what's the point? Just wasting money.
You're like, yes, press that button. I just hope if World War III happens, I hope I'm right in the middle of the strike zone. I don't want to die from fallout. I just vaporize. Best way to go. Yeah.
I won't get enlisted, which is good. I'm just too old for that, which is good. Anyway, back to like.
Talking of which, since we're on a diversion here, I was just looking at the naturalization because I can become a US citizen.
Ooh.
I mean,
play for the US team.
One of the questions on there is, would you be willing to take up arms on behalf of the US?
Oh my God, really?
And my reaction was, fuck no.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. No. I'd rather just, rot in a jail, thank you. I've seen enough war movies to not want to go to war.
Yeah, well, they don't have conscription here, so I know. I think it's a theoretical question, but still. All right. David Balfour says, City have corrupted the integrity of every competition they've played in. When you consider the prize money, Champions League places, how on earth do you punish them? And where would that leave the clubs that finished below them? Yeah. I think, and not just because they're City, I think relegation and maybe even multiple relegations is the only appropriate penalty here, because like some kind of points penalty, given the number of charges and infractions, and a lot of them are related. Fair enough. Bit like Trump's 34 felonies are really one thing. So signed this check stub, one felony count. And they're not defending him. I'm just saying, So basically, City's scheme was inflate the amount of money they have by having fake sponsors and then lie about it, right? That's the overall scheme. But that is so incredibly corrupt and distorting of the whole competition. There's no way they can be in it, right? So relegation is the only viable option, in my opinion, because money means nothing.
100%. And also, like, I think City, I worked it out and I've already forgotten it. So waste of time working out. But I think it's not even that hard to work out anyway. But Luton finished, I think, something like 60 points behind Man City this season. So that means that City would have to get over a 60-point deduction for them to be relegated, basically. So like and like you say, they've been literally cheating the competition. They've been cheating every single team that are in that competition. They should be relegated. Like Saracens in the Guinness Premiership, when they were found to be doing a similar thing, they were basically the salary cap in the Guinness Premiership, that they would basically like not declaring players' wages, and then therefore their wage cap was miles over the limit. They got relegated, and they kept all their players, and they're back in the Premiership now, and they're back in European competition and stuff. But still, like it's a similar type of situation, and the rugby union, whatever they're called, they didn't think it bad enough to relegate the biggest and best English side, and that there's absolutely no doubt that they should be relegated and stripped of all their titles as well.
Yeah, I'm actually not in favour of giving it to whoever came second, because I think whoever came second didn't win. Yeah. I mean, literally, I know they didn't win because they got cheated, and like in an Olympic competition, if a doped runner wins the gold, the silver medal, moves up.
It's different.
But there's something about
though, isn't it? Because
a 38 team, like whole leagues, multiple seasons. I don't know. It feels too hollow. I mean, United would get 2 extra titles.
It's different as well, because like if you were running a 100-meter race, for example, everyone is sprinting to their full pace, and you're not going to slow down if you see someone ahead of you in first, so to come fourth. But I think in the Premier League that might happen. If you were going for first, for example, and then first has won by a long way, and then it's only a battle for second, like you're not going to be that arsed. You're going to slow down, and you're not going to play to the full limit, especially if you've got, I don't know, say FA Cup final on the horizon or the Champions League. Therefore, someone could win the title by you just not playing to your 100%. Therefore, you can't really just award.
Yeah.
And that would definitely happen. There would definitely be occasions like that where someone played the reserve in the last game of the season because it doesn't matter about finishing second or third.
Right.
But it's like I say, like if you run 100 meters, you're still happy to come second ahead of third type of thing. So you're still running to full power.
Yeah. I think that's a fair argument, actually. Yeah, we don't know the knock-on effects, and therefore, how do you calculate it? Yeah. Yes, so relegation, maybe multiple relegations. Or maybe, here's an idea. Everton got an 8-point deduction for their financial penalty, and then a 4, and they were both reduced on appeal. So let's say 8 points per infraction, 115. So 8 times 115, and they have to keep playing until they've worked off those points. Yeah,
that would be excellent, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because that would relegate them a couple of times at least, maybe 3. So they'd be playing for pointless, and then they would completely demotivate all those players for several seasons. Who, all the stars would leave because they wouldn't want to be part of that. Demotivate players because they're playing for nothing other than the cash. So maybe it'd make them 5 or 6 seasons to get back up. So anyway, whatever. I'm being facetious, but it should be severe, because this was, even though it's harder to cheat in this way now because the stable door has been bolted or closed after the horse has bolted. It's got to be extremely severe.
I think also like the integrity of the league is at stake here as well. Like you've had a team that have been cheating the system, cheating the competition for 6-7 years or whatever it is. Like, what are you going to do about that? Are you just going to say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, like slap on the wrist type of thing? Or are you going to say, like, you've literally fucked over the competition here, the most watched game, the most watched league in the world? Like, we need to come down hard on this.
Yeah. Well, it's damaging the integrity of the competition that it's taking so long. And I kind of understand why, because of, both City obfuscating and not giving over the data they had to give over. And we had 3 years of a court case of City arguing they didn't have to give over this data. So that delayed everything for 3 years while the Premier League couldn't get the full picture. I don't know whether they will have given the chairman literally said, "I'd rather spend 50 million on lawyers than 50 million in fines." So we don't know that they've handed over everything now. There could still be gaps there, but given that, and like how many charges there are, and how much City are likely to be fighting all of them, and the makeup of the independent commission, and so I kind of understand how it's taken so long. There will be legal appeals. I think Kieran Maguire on the Price of Football podcast was saying that he thinks it will be September. What he's heard on the grapevine is September for the hearing, and then into 2025 for a decision. So we may get a whole other season. And people are saying these charges are from years ago, but they've built up their base. The reason why they have the biggest revenues in the Premier League now might well be because they're still cheating on the sponsorships and they've got Abu Dhabi-based sponsors, but also because they built up this base of success. So they're all related. All right, Nick Rogers says, it's still not clear, given the new hires and the nature of the reported briefs, who is in charge of transfers this summer. Do you know who has the final say? It's a really good question, because given what happened with Ashworth and his emailing himself, still, fucking hell, for a supposedly professional operator.
He's supposed to be all about competence, isn't he?
I know. Mind you, like I pretty much, I once sent a client of mine, this is 15, 17 years ago. I meant to send one of my colleagues a rather offensive message about a client of mine, and I sent it to the client.
My God. That happened in the thick of it once.
Yeah.
That literally.
Yeah. I apologized and she forgave me. But this is very early in my career and being extremely dumb.
Wow. That is hilarious.
Yeah.
She forgave you?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
Anyway, I don't know who's in charge, because Barada doesn't start until July. I think I'm right in saying 13th of July. And Ashworth, we don't know when, because they haven't come up with a fee yet, an agreement. Yeah. And given it's not helping that Chelsea are spending loads of money on like 10 million for Maresca. I kind of sets a bit of a benchmark, doesn't it? They paid even more than that for Potter, by the way. So, I know, what a club. Well, Todd Bowley, what a visionary. It's what we needed, Tom. We needed people like Todd Bowley from the private equity world to come and show us how it all works.
So fucking lucky we swerved that. So fucking lucky.
Wow. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, Wilcox is apparently heavily involved. They still have, what's his name, doing negotiations, whose name I totally forget clearly. And then there's O'Brien on the heading the scouting department. And Barada will be in a month, as I said. And then Jean-Claude Blanc, who's I don't think he's not picking players, is he? But he's an experienced executive. Not all good experiences if you look at his time at Juve and PSG, but he's an experienced executive. So I don't know. It feels like they've got just about enough to execute. And look, will they be having on the slide conversations on burner phones or meeting at the services on the M6? I don't know.
That's it, isn't it? It's not like when you hear like an executive goes on gardening leave. It's like it's not really a football. He can literally just be doing his job while not employed by the club. I mean, you just be smart about it.
Yeah, I think many people have been there. All right. You know what? I missed this one. Oscar says, if Ronaldo never rejoined, would Ollie still be manager? Oh, Ollie. I started feeling nostalgic about Ollie when I was watching the 99 doc, because there's still something about him. I know it was one-dimensional, and the dimension was we'll be solid defensively and we'll use the quick men up front to break really quickly. But you know what? It did all right. Second and third Conference League final. We're a kick away from winning that. You know, not a horrendous record, was it?
Yeah, listening to that Stick to Football interview, that really kind of made me yearn for him, especially because United would go through bad period with Ten Hag at that time as well. I think that's why it felt like
Yeah.
that's why Solskjaer was doing that interview at that moment. But yeah, the way he talked about like his mistakes and stuff, and I just like how he was humble and honest enough to point out a lot of his mistakes and how much he cared for the club, like how much we loved him. They were lovely days looking back on it now. But like I used to think, I still thought at the time though, like we need someone better than him if we want to compete at the top. And despite all the loveliness of having him,
Yeah.
like, I still believe that.
I think we'd be in a better situation right now if Ronaldo hadn't rejoined. I think he was a destabilizing factor. And look, Ollie has never once pushed back against that. He says, it wasn't him that pushed for it, but he didn't push against it, and he thought it'd be a good idea. But it destabilized the squad and the team dynamic. Suddenly, the old tactics didn't work anymore. And clearly he was trouble in the back half of that season. So.
And also, like the way that it ruined someone like Sancho as well. Like Solskjaer talked about on that pod, like how it ruined his integration and where he was going to play and stuff. And that probably had a long-term effect on the way that Sancho not just started at United, but how he kind of endured at United.
Yes, I think it's a horrendous decision for moral, business, and footballing reasons. But then we made a lot of those horrendous decisions over the years. By the way, talking of like morally dubious, Martin Samuel in the Times wrote this piece. Don't know whether you've had the displeasure to read the full thing, but basically arguing for the reintegration of Mason Greenwood as the morally correct thing to do.
I haven't seen this, no. Wow.
He didn't use those words exactly. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he was saying. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me coming from him.
I mean, I just couldn't disagree with that more, basically. I just like until Mason comes out, and even then, like I think he's got to go. Yeah, I did something wrong, like because that statement they put out was kind of weasel words, wasn't it? I made a mistake or something like that. So he's got to say, yeah, I did something wrong. So that's the recognition. He's got to have remorse. I'm really sorry for it, not just for the woman I hurt, but the hundreds of thousands of women who follow United and who have suffered abuse themselves, and whose feelings were triggered by that, right? And to the fans who support this guy, and he sullied the name of the club, and then reconciliation, which is I'm going to do something to put this right. And he's not done any of this.
Absolutely. Like I've seen a few comments on this channel as well, like from people when we talk about Greenwood and stuff, and people view it, and I imagine, I haven't read this article, but I imagine the view is very similar. They look at it in such a tunnel vision way, where they look at no one else but what Mason Greenwood, and they say, yeah, he's done. They kind of just leave all of the context aside and look at this one bloke and go, yeah, he's done nothing wrong, therefore they somehow like say that he's done nothing wrong, and they say he needs to be integrated, he needs for his family's sake, he needs empathy, he needs sympathy, he needs love, compassion, blah blah blah. But you can't look at something like this in this footballing arena, like you say, where hundreds of thousands of people, millions around the world, eyes are on our football club and what decision we make and his decisions and what he has done. You can't just leave all that aside because that is so fucking important. It's just such a daft, stupid, thick way to think. It's either that or just completely disingenuous, and you are just like either wanting to be controversial, or two, you are thinking we need to win at all costs, which a lot of people are thinking that. Like they are thinking we win at all costs,
and clearly is,
and they're trying to spin that into a moral argument, which is just bullshit. Like I feel that's what it is most of the time.
I think that's a bad faith argument almost always when someone will say, he's not been convicted of anything. I mean, when 1% of sexual abuse gets convicted, right? So that's bad faith, and they just want United to win, and so they don't care. And that's football fans, isn't it? I mean, Newcastle fans and City fans have been bought basically, using that. They want to win at all costs. And although I did notice this week that Borussia Dortmund fans, and of course it would be Borussia Dortmund fans, push back against Rheinmetall, a weapons manufacturer, who's their new sponsor. A weapons manufacturer that delivers weapons to a current conflict in which people are dying in the thousands, right? So, and no matter what your take on that conflict, no one should want civilian deaths, should they? And you would directly be linking those civilian deaths to the Borussia Dortmund sponsorship and to Borussia Dortmund's future success. And so good on those fans for going, we don't want any.
And that's the ridiculous thing about this whole thing. Like, that is just the easy, straightforward, right thing to do. Like, every football fan should surely just support that or be in agreement with that. Like, if you are not, and you like just allow your morals to completely implode and disintegrate because your football team might win a few more games, like, what are you thinking? What is your existence? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, every football club should be like Borussia Dortmund. Like, it shouldn't be an outlier in world football. Like, every City fan, every Newcastle fan should be exactly the same. Like, it's just mad.
Well, we can argue as a community, don't we, that we say, hey, these are community assets and they're important. And therefore they should be a regulator to protect these community assets. Oh, but if there's some way I can get ahead and my team can get ahead, well, fuck all that, So, it's and anyway, good on Borussia Dortmund fans. It's not the first time this kind of thing has happened in German football, where because obviously they have professional management teams to run the entity, even if there's 50+1, and sometimes those management teams. It happened with was it Qatar Tourism was sponsoring Bayern Munich? I forget. I may be wrong about the sponsor there, but something like that. And they pushed back against that one, and in fact invaded the AGM. So Dortmund's next AGM could get quite spicy.
And that also comes after rumours they were linked to Mason Greenwood as well. Like, what is happening at that club? And there's also like big rumours. I don't even know if they're rumours, but like I think Ken Early wrote about this today about how the German government were kind of leaning on Borussia Dortmund to take this deal with the arms manufacturer. So what the fuck is going on there?
Right.
Like, yeah.
Wow. Well, that wouldn't be a surprise because look, the British government lent on the Premier League in order to get the Newcastle deal completed, and the football regulator white paper, which won't go through before the general election, and so could become completely different by the time the new government comes into place, had a carve out for national interest as well. And in the case of Saudi and Newcastle, there's some obvious both energy and arms interests there. In the case of UAE, it's energy and trade. In the case of Qatar, if it had been Manchester United, obviously, major provider of liquid natural gas. And so that carve-out was clearly put in there with the government thinking about, well, what are our national interests? Okay, well, we don't want these owners, but this one's in our national interest. So. And by the way, I'd feel like if BAE Systems or any of the British manufacturers of weapons systems wanted to sponsor United, I would not be comfortable with that as a fan. No matter what conflict it might be going to, my success as a football club directly tied to blowing something up.
Yeah, and you look at the stocks since the Israel-Palestine war, at that Dortmund, the one that I can't remember what they're called, who sponsored Dortmund. Yeah, their stocks have just skyrocketed, and literally just.
Well, yeah. Russia, Ukraine's also provided a great market for. Yeah, I mean, I think all the stocks, all the major, All right, that's a great way to end the pod.
What even was the question for that, by the way?
I don't know. I think it started out with who has the final say of the transfers, and then went into
What a tangent that
a meandering tangent through geopolitics and football. Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. We'll do another Mailbag Pod in a few months' time when United have been knocked out the Europa League by FC Karabag. So, or something like that. We've got nothing to do in midweek. We'll catch up with you all again soon. Thanks, Tom. Recover from your hay fever.
I'm hoping I wasn't too sniffly throughout, so apologies if I was.
All right. Bye now.